Hello there, and welcome back to the Sky Guys podcast. We are continuing our coverage of what we missed during the bracket month here in the content. Star Wars Outlaws. We're talking about today, the game that came out at the end of August. I'm your host, Mike Phillips. Normally have VO from Pete Consor here, but Pete unfortunately got into he has a bad reputation with the Pike Syndicate, so he could not get out of that situation. But with us, as always, Nick Fraietta is here. Nick, how are you?
Doing very well. Um, just surprising we haven't talked about this yet. Came out end of August or really the last day of August, but now it's, mid-November. So excited to actually talk about it.
Yep. Also here with us today, our video game guy here on the podcast, Recovery Room Nick, as I like to call him. Nick DeLessio is here. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to be back. I like being the video game guy, so I'm happy there's more Star Wars video games to talk about.
Yep, we got a brand new game here just for people who know this year. So both Nicks finished the game. I had not gotten very far in the game, but I am aware of the general concept here. So we'll just talk about this as we go here. But since Pete is not with us today, I'll mention that if you want to subscribe to us on the Sky Guys, you can do so Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, Amazon, all usual suspects. Simply search for the Sky Guys for your podcast platform. Final episodes there. And not too much time left, Nick, until we get Skeleton Crew season. So you want to subscribe.
True.
Make sure,
That's actually right now that you just mentioned it, and I looked at the calendar. My God, it's like 4 weeks,
yeah, you
three weeks.
right after Thanksgiving, Skeleton Crew is here.
It's 3 weeks from tomorrow at time of record.
Yes, it's wild.
That's crazy.
Yep,
Wow. Okay.
3 weeks until we finally get Hondo.
Maybe.
maybe
Huh?
That's crazy though. We got to do like a one of those recap intro things, one of those shows where we prep you for it.
previews.
The preview show. We got to do that. I'm sure we have it on
Yes,
the calendar, but I know we have that on. I know we have that on the calendar, but still,
coming very soon.
that's crazy though.
Yeah, it is crazy here. And Nick F, regular Sky Guys, Nick. If people want to follow social media, how can they do that?
Follow at Sky Guys Podcast on Instagram, Twitter X, and TikTok.
Yep, and you can check out the YouTube version. Mike Phelps on YouTube. We get all of our graphics and stuff, including our social media comment of the week. This is from the Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy episode. He has a discussion about the toys last week, the mini figures set here. So this comment is from Aiden talking about the future of Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. He says here, in your hearts with some of these sets, we talked about the Dark Falcon set last week. So it was $100, which sell really well, but it's like 180, I think. And Nick D, yeah, this is one of Pete's big criticisms of the Lego stuff, is that the IP price is baked in.
Yeah, as somebody who I buy Legos for my cousin. She loves Star Wars and Legos.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's crazy how expensive it gets. It's like, is it just because of Star Wars? Is it all the IP ones? I guess I know Legos are pretty pricey as it is, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very much like for the piece count you're getting and the minifigures, like the IP price gets baked in compared to like something that say a Lego original property, their own brand. But that's the situation here, and we do have some Star Wars news you wanted to cover, Nick Fraietta. So you want to get us going?
Sure. So the first thing is I don't get it what I'm reading.
Yeah. So you want to read it, then we can discuss it a
Okay,
little
it
bit.
says Star Wars Outlaws has a new creative director who's going to give the game a creative overhaul. But this is the game we're talking about, so I don't understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, apparently, like they have hired a new creative director to oversee the game, and they're going to send out waves and waves of updates to make the game a more playable experience. Because, as we talked about before, Nick D, this game did not sell very well.
Yeah, and I don't know if at this point, like, is it even worth salvaging or doing going this far? Because it's like it's a single player game, and at this point, most people have either beaten it or like just decided they don't want to play it anymore. So I don't know if changing things at this point is really gonna do much.
I
I mean,
agree.
you hear stories of games like they'll roll out free updates and the game changes and the fans come around on it, but like not in a game like a single player story. I don't know if I get this either.
This feels like a last ditch effort for the holiday sales push.
So I will play devil's advocate, and they did save Cyberpunk this way,
Yeah.
but this is not Cyberpunk. And I have noticed these updates. But again, I beat the game before I saw them, so I'd see them like I'd see a Reddit post like, "Oh, patch notes," and I'd log on to my PlayStation, see the game updated, and be like, "Oh, what changed?" And I'd look it up, and I see a bunch of changes. Like, "Oh, that's cool, that's cool, that's cool." But I'm like, "Well, I'm done though, so it doesn't impact me."
It impacts me because I have not gotten, I still have room to play this game. So,
It also might not impact you in that. I mean, it will impact you, but you might not even realize it because like you don't know what happened prior. Like
yeah,
it's one thing if you had played and so you were halfway through and then they changed it, and then you can notice the change. You haven't played enough probably to even notice the change.
yeah, that's probably true. So, we'll table a discussion when we actually get into the game, some of the issues people have with the Outlaws experience. But what else we got?
The next one is this was actually confirmed. At first, it was a rumor for a little bit, and then it was confirmed that Andor season two is premiering on April 22nd. That is a Tuesday night of 2025, obviously, and that it will continue the Tuesday night releases on Disney Plus. I'm assuming 9 p.m. Eastern, and very cool. We finally have a release date on Andor season two.
Yeah, Nick D. I'm sure you're very excited to get back into the world of Andor here.
I'm just excited to like have good Star Wars to look forward to, Hot take, right? Yeah, no, I'm very excited for more Andor. It's like it's the show that like you almost kind of use as a defense. It's like to anybody that's like Disney Star Wars isn't that good. It's like, yeah, but have you seen Andor? Like it's the one you can so like I'm excited for season two.
Yeah, Andor and Rogue One fall in the same bucket.
Yeah,
Yep,
exactly.
yes, they do.
Yep. And you gotta get to the big news of the week here.
And the big news of the week is that Deadline reports that Simon Kinberg, who, as far as I'm aware, was a big part of the X-Men movies, not all of them, but a lot of them.
Yes, he is.
He has been hired to produce a new trilogy of Star Wars films, and the story indicates that the trilogy is going to be episode 10, 11, and 12, which sources at Lucasfilm have refuted, and like I am just getting so tired of this broken record. This is not coming out. This is not happening. Neither is the Lando movie. Neither is the Ryan Johnson trilogy. Neither is Rogue Squadron. Like, enough is enough. This is crazy. None of these movies are coming out. Where do these reports come from? I'm actually starting to think I started to build a conspiracy theory in my head that Lucasfilm is planting these out there on purpose to see what the reaction is, and then say, "Oh, they don't like it. Not yet. Not yet. It's not time." Until there's finally a positive reaction, and then they'll actually do it. Call me crazy. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and to mention some stuff here on Simon Kinberg, Nick D. Like his writing credits, he has some good stuff in there. He did write X-Men Days Future Past, which is very popular. He has a writing credit there. He also has some good producing credits on some of the X-Men stuff, but he also wrote 2015's Fantastic Four. He wrote X-Men The Last Stand. He wrote Dark Phoenix. There's some big swing and miss potential here with this guy.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say when you said Days of Future Past, I was like, oh, the good X-Men, and then said Dark Phoenix, and I was like, oh, the not good X-Men. Didn't he have something to do with Rebels also? Wasn't he like a part of that?
I'm looking at film,
Uh,
television. Yeah,
he
he was a writer on Rebels.
he wrote some Rebels, and he was also credited on The Force Awakens and Rogue One, but I don't know what he did.
I think he
Yeah.
was like a consultant
That's
with
what,
it or
yeah.
something like
So
that.
he also
Um,
was, I think he was like in charge of the new Twilight Zone that came out.
yes.
Like he ran the whole thing, and I have only heard bad things about it.
Yeah, he did the entire thing. That was ran from 2019 to 2020.
So the only thing that I'll say positive about this is if you are going to do a new trilogy, which I don't think they will, I don't think they should, but whatever. If you are, at least giving the keys to the kingdom to one person, as opposed to what they did in the sequel trilogy, could make it a lot better. At least even if I didn't agree, I didn't like the sequel movies, if Ryan Johnson or J.J. Abrams had done the whole thing, definitely would have been a
Oh,
smoother story, right? We can all agree on that. So I'll say that's a positive here. But as I mentioned, I just don't even come close to buying this. I don't think there's a chance that this comes out.
yeah. So just for fun, we found a good graphic on Culture Crave on Twitter. So we're gonna go ahead and throw that up on the YouTube version here. This is sort of like everything that has been announced at some point over the last like 5 years. So here, I'll go down the list here.
Well, let me go down the list if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, I think I'll go down the list and you just give me your reaction to each
Sure.
segment.
How about that?
Yeah, so first up, Simon Kinberg's Star Wars trilogy.
Okay,
Simon Kim,
we've already
yeah,
spoke on that, so we don't have to.
yeah. And by the way, I fully buy Deadline claim that it's 10 to 12. Lucasfilm, I definitely think does not want that out there, but I think I don't think Deadline gets that wrong. Next up, The Mandalorian and Grogu, reportedly wrap principal film in October. May still be some other parts to still a film, releasing May 22nd, 2026.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is going to happen. No debates here. They still have some work to do. If they're almost done with filming, it seems like then they have to enter post production and they have to wait for their slot in the theater. So this one will come.
Yep. The new Jedi Order working title stars Daisy Ridley, now for its fourth writer. It had to release December 2026. And I think Nick D, my hot take is this gets folded into Simon Kinberg trilogy. I don't think it ends up happening.
As soon as you said fourth writer, I heard Nick's voice in my head. Just yeah, okay, when we see it, yeah, okay, well, it's gonna happen, sure.
Yeah, not happening. Maybe though, if it does come, it will be part of the Simon Kinberg trilogy, I suppose.
That's why I think I think this idea gets folded into the Simon Kinberg
Which I also
trilogy.
don't think is going to happen, to be clear. But I guess if it were to happen, then that would be part of it.
Yep. James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi movie set 25,000 years before the Skywalker saga. Bo Wilmot from Andor is co-writing the script. He also wrote House of Cards. So this one, I think Nick, if you and I agree, I think we think this one will come.
I used to. Now I don't, because it's like how many years are going to pass until we get something?
Remember, we had the news 2 weeks ago. They're planning to film next year.
And they were planning to film the Ray movie like 3 years in a row, and now we're on the fourth writer. I just think we're going to see this go into development hell.
Yeah, well,
I don't think
have 4 writers though.
we will get there at the end, but I think there's only a handful, actually only two movies on this list that ever come out.
Yeah. Lando was originally going to be a TV show, will now be a film written by Donald and Stephen Glover. Development help.
Not happening.
Yeah, no, put that in the not happening for me too.
Dave Filoni's Star Wars movie. Cloud the stories told in projects like The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, The Book of Boba Fett. These guys seem to deliver their stuff. I expect this one to come.
This one I expect to come unless one thing.
Mando Grogu flops.
Exactly. If that movie bombs, this movie's not coming.
Yeah, then I think instead you'd probably get like a Defender style show on Disney Plus to wrap everything up.
Yep, agreed.
Yep. Star Wars Taika Waititi's movie. Script co-written by Christy Wilson Carnes. Waititi likely having part in the film. This is never happening.
Nope. No chance.
I don't think we had an update on this Nick D since like 2021.
I forgot it was a thing until just now. So yeah.
Sean Levy's Star Wars movie. Jonathan Tropper is writing it. This is only getting attention because Deadpool and Wolverine made $1 billion.
I mean, this is somewhat recent, like news, so it's hard for me to say it's not happening, but it's not happening.
It's been rumored for a while though.
Yeah, it's not happening. And this next one is the biggest joke on the list.
Rogue Squadron was reportedly canceled in March 2024. Patty Jenkins confirmed she's still developing it and working on the script.
No. No shot. I've been hearing about Rogue Squadron for how long? And another thing,
It was on the original Disney like release in 2019.
yeah, another thing is like, if this movie actually came out, who in the world would see this? Sounds terrible.
Yeah, I'm looking at this list and I'm like, I think I would want to see two of these, maybe.
Yeah. And this is like this. I think the only way this works is I've said this to you, Nick F, on the podcast. Like, if this is like Top Gun Star Wars style and Oscar Isaac's characters in it,
Yeah, you have mentioned that. Yeah.
I think it's the only way this is actually any shot of intriguing. And the last one, which I think has just been quietly just like it got put down and not told about, is Ryan Johnson's Star Wars trilogy. Still in the works, but postponed until he's finished with the Knives Out films, which I think to me, Nick D screams Disney saying, okay, Ryan, go do your stuff. Like you work on it eventually, and then hopefully he forgets about it.
It kind of feels like it's giving like that friend that you like keep saying like, yeah, we'll hang out eventually. I'm just so busy right now. Like it's kind of giving that kind of energy.
It's like no, don't call don't call us. We'll call you.
Yeah. Well, what you finish doing what you're doing, and we'll see what happens, Ryan. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So when you look at this list as a whole, the only two that I actually believe in is The Mandalorian and Grogu. I think I have to believe in, considering they're almost done filming.
Yeah.
And I believe in the Dave Filoni Star Wars movie. I guess we'll call it the the Avengers for Star Wars. But then
The
again,
Amanda
if
versus Avengers.
yeah, but if this Mandalorian and Grogu movie flops, and I don't think it's going to come, and and we can maybe have a separate discussion, a separate podcast on this. I am not going to predict that the Mandalorian and Grogu movie flops, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, well, we'll
You're way, way, way late on the whole Grogu hype and the Mando hype. This is like 3 years ago, even more. People cared. Like people don't care anymore.
Do they
yeah,
have like a do they have like a budget on it? Is there any release of anything like that?
I
I,
don't know anything, honestly.
I don't know, man. I know they were still in production. They're probably getting into post production, maybe some reshoots.
The only thing I know about this is that the only thing I know for sure about this movie is obviously is it's apparently season 4 of The Mandalorian put into a movie.
Yes, because originally John Favreau wrote season 4 before season 3 came out, and then they reworked into a movie.
And this movie is directed by Favreau, written by Favreau and Filoni, um, produced by them as well as Kathleen Kennedy, obviously. So this is, I don't know. This is what people say. These are what people say that these two should have the keys to the kingdom. Their first theatrical release, and at the time will be like 6, almost 7 years.
Yep.
You got to hit. You got to
Yeah,
hit.
they got.
If you don't hit, too bad. And if you don't, I honestly, if you don't hit with this movie, I don't know when you go back to theaters, if ever.
Yeah, I think we'll see what happens with this one here. There's a lot riding on this one, but is that it for the news right now?
That's it.
All right, so let's get into why we're here today. Star Wars Outlaws, the video game that came out in late August. It is a tale set between episodes 5 and 6 in the original trilogy. It involves a smuggler going around the Outer Rim, and it's like making deals with syndicates, doing all sorts of crazy shenanigans to give you the underworld experience in Star Wars here. So I will admit I have not played much of the game. I'm on the I'd say the second planet is where I'm at right now, but I will say like I can see the appeal for some people. It is fun, but I can see that there are some bugs that you have to get over if and hurdles to get over in terms of play style. Nick D.
Yeah, so I played on a PlayStation 5, and for the most part, I didn't really have too many issues. Nothing like game breaking like you were seeing initially released. Um, Strictly just gameplay. Like you have the occasional wonkiness, like you'll be driving your speeder and you will hit what looks like it should be a little tiny pebble and you come to a complete stop and go flying off your speed. Like little minor things like that. But I didn't have anything that was like so immersion breaking that I had to turn it off. For overall the gameplay was fine for me.
Nick F, I know you've said on and off the podcast here that like it's not a great game. You have a lot of fun playing it.
Yeah, definitely. The only bugs I encountered, there were some like randomly the character just like jolts over here or whatever. It felt a little weird. No big deal, but I did have bugs where a lot of these side quests, even upon completion, were just not going away in my journal. And I would look it up, and apparently it's just a known issue. Like, oh, you can do this one, but it will stay there. So it's just annoying to me. Like I'm a completionist, I like to see it go away in my journal and like see like the side quest not there anymore, but they just stay there. It's kind of frustrating, but not a big deal. Like you could still play the game and enjoy the game and not have that interfere with you at all.
Yeah. I think that's a good point here. I think in terms of the actual gameplay experience, there's a lot to sort of dive into with the game here. I think there are a couple of things here. I think Nick F, the open worldness here. I think it's the first really true open world experience we have in Star Wars. I mean, like Jedi Survivor gives you a little bit with Kobo, but it's not. It's really like a controlled open world where like here it really feels like you could just wander an entire planet if you want. I mean, there's points where they prompt you, oh, you want to just lean on the rail, look out the side? Sure. You want to go sit down on the bench and listen to two people talk about their lives? You can do that too. Like, there's a lot of like, I think, good open world stuff here.
But to me, this is what makes the game. I'll be honest. I know we're going to get to the story later on in this. I don't care for the story at all. I don't care about it. Like I don't care for it in that it wasn't very good, but I also don't care in that I didn't give a hell about it. Didn't give a damn about it. So for me, it was all about the gameplay, the open worldness, the sneaking around, the fighting the Empire. Like I loved it in that sense. Loved going around, doing side quests, upgrading my character, unlocking all the new skills, upgrading the blaster, upgrading the ship and the speeder, and doing all that stuff. To me, that was a ton of fun. Loved all of that. Seeing some of these planets, especially Tatooine, which I saved for last, and I recommend everyone does that also, just because I think the best one is better to save it for last. Seeing like going there and actually like walking around Mos Eisley and like seeing the stormtroopers out there and the Jawas and whomever, and it's an experience that you're not going to get ever, and like it's actually crazy that we haven't gotten until this point. A lot of fun. I loved it. Loved that aspect of the game.
Nick, your thoughts on the open world likeness of this game?
Yeah, I mean, Ubisoft knows what they're doing as far as creating worlds. I don't think their issue with them is the worlds that they create. I think it's the games that they make kind of get become a little copy paste a little bit, which I think this game does suffer from a little bit. I think this game opens so strong. It's like it introduces you to the mechanics, it introduces you to people, and then here's your first open world. And it's not a huge one. It's big, but it's big enough. And I think where the game really starts to go down for me is after the first world, you start doing the next world, and it's kind of the same thing. And then you go to the next world, and it's kind of the same thing. Up until Tatooine, which I think I agree with Nick. Like Tatooine, it was actually a really cool experience because so many games go to Tatooine, but like driving up to Mos Eisley and then walking around and then finding like the cantina and like all that other stuff, that was a cool experience. The story of the game, it's
Yeah,
it's your typical heist. We need to get a crew to whatever kind of plot is fine, but the world was definitely the best part of the game.
yeah. I also like it. Like all, I think the side quests were pretty cool. Where even like you could just randomly go like find sabacc tables, go play sabacc to go some credits. You could go like go do some odd job for somebody to like get some credits. You can like go like and making the first like in the tutorial world on Canto Bite, you get like the little stuff out where you can like get the tip for the fixed race and then go back and basically scam your way into some credits. Like that kind of stuff is like adds to it.
Do you guys like Sabacc? I
I
kind of
love it.
love.
I
I kind of.
love playing
I was gonna
Star.
say I love Sabacc too. Like I was
Uh,
playing it too much. Like an hour and a half into my stream, people are like, "Are you gonna do anything other than Sabacc today?" And I was like, "Probably not." Like let's
Yeah,
keep going.
I have a blast playing Zabak. It's a lot of fun. It was a game. It's kind of fun to know that like I actually know how to play Sabak now.
Yeah.
yes.
Like I want to rewatch Solo because I know they played and I didn't really understand the game at that time. Like I want to rewatch Solo and understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And I remember like Nick D, like I believe they had Sabak in Knights of the Old Republic, like way back when you could play it then. I think this is like a much more updated take on it.
Was that Sabacc or was it like Pazak or something? It was like a different kind of game, or it was a similar type of game, but not
I think
exactly the same. Yeah.
I think they called it Sabak in the game, but
Did they
this
call it
does
Sabacc?
it's not the same play style. But I think the argument is like, oh, the game has advanced like thousands of years since the Kotor characters are playing it.
Honestly, I think what Star Wars Outlaws should do instead of hiring a new creative director, just make a standalone Sabacc game.
Yeah.
I'd pay like $5 for that to
They
play
can
with
play. They
people
can
online.
do. I mean, they can really pretty easily make like a mobile Sabak game,
Yeah,
Yes.
easily.
and I would play that. That's a
Yeah.
good like subway game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People play like solitaire, and I'm just sitting there playing Sabak. It'd
Yeah.
be great.
Yeah, it would be fun. I also like feel like in terms of the actual like gameplay style, as like Pete mentioned, I think off the air to us, Leslie, if you do not like stealth, this is not your game. There's a lot of stealth action here. You get to sneak around bases. You're doing a lot of like covert kind of missions. You're trying not to get caught by various syndicates when you're like breaking into here. You got a lot of stealth. You got some speeder stuff. You got some flight stuff. Like in terms of the actual core gameplay style, I'll admit this is why I'm not farther into the game because like stealth is not really my speed. So like I'm kind of like going along as like I find time compared to like Jedi Survivors is like that was more my speed. I felt more compelled to prioritize that. That's sort of
There's
where
a
I
way to avoid that, which I do, and I did. You don't want to be stealthy, then play on the easier difficulty.
play story mode.
And when someone sees you, you just kill them.
Yeah.
Like you run into an Imperial base and they see you, you can take out the entire base if you're good enough at fighting and taking cover and whatnot. I mean, it's not easy, so it's easy to kill them, but it's also hard because there's like 90 of them against you. But you can do it, and that's what I did because I don't love stealth games either. One game that I've told Recovery Room Nick about that I don't want to play because I've tried to play it and it's too stealthy was Horizon Zero Dawn. But I feel
Ooh,
like there was no way around it there. You
you're
had to
missing
be
out.
stealthy.
You're missing out, man.
I've tried it, and to me, I can't stand being stealthy the whole time. And it's like, and I think you've told me like there's really no way around it. You have to be stealthy. That's the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. As far and also just to the if you want to play Outlaws and you're not sure if you like the stealth formula, even like the missions where it's like the missions they don't say don't get caught. They'll say don't raise an alarm. So if somebody does see you and they're like, I'm gonna go raise the alarm, like you have enough time to catch up to them and prevent them from raising the alarm. You also do get a lot of like skills where like you walk into a room and if somebody catches you, you can press a button and like put your hands up and kind of talk to them, be like, hey, let's see if we can get
You
away.
get the skill, yeah.
And then you can blast them, you know? So like there are ways around it, but the base of the game is a stealth game. So yeah, if that's not your cup of tea, it's going to be a little bit harder for you.
Yeah, like we just got the combat aspects of the game, like what in terms of the skills that like the main character K can learn, you can play with throughout the game.
Yeah, well, I like them because a lot of them, like you meet these people and then your relation once you meet these people, then like you get better at like your speeder. You learn a thing where you can like jump with it, so you can go over rocks and get to new areas with your blaster, like your dead eye mode, the
Yeah,
red dead eye mode. You can have five people instead of three, and the way you get rewarded by doing that is just by playing the game. So like the play style you do, you'll get rewarded because you'll get the skill points necessary for that. So if you're heavy on your blaster, eventually you'll do enough to get better with your blaster. So it does reward you in that regard. I think the fighting, anytime there was a firefight, it felt pretty fun, pretty dynamic. Like it's a Ubisoft game, so you can tell when, oh, here's the cover places, here's all the red barrels I got to shoot to explode people. It has all like the typical stuff you'd find, but the Star Wars aspect of it was a lot of fun.
yeah, and Nick, also, what'd you think about like I think the other thing I think is makes this game different from like your typical stealth games, like some of the underworld games here that like we have these four crime syndicates and like you had the ability to like influence your relationship with each of them, like gain favor with some, get pissed others pissed off at you. Like you have what you call the you're standing with the syndicates, where I think it's the Pikes, Crimson Dawn, the Huts, and the one they make up for the game. So I think this mechanic I think is very unique. I hope they carry it forward into other Star Wars games.
I like it a lot. I didn't like how it was explained though early in the game because I didn't know until towards the end of the game that it was possible to have a great relationship with everybody. I just assumed if I help them, then they're gonna hate me. If I help A, B will dislike me. And that's not true. So at the beginning of the game, I was doing everything I can to be friendly with Crimson Dawn, but at the same time, I was always neglecting the Pikes.
Yeah.
And as we got further into the game, I realized I can just make everybody happy. And then I did that. And then I got excellent with everybody and unlocked all the clothing and whatnot. And I didn't realize you can do that until like I must have been like 75% done with the game. So I kind of wish that was explained a little bit better. But I do enjoy you get some perks for being close with all of them. And by the way, you get really close with the Pikes, they give you an Imperial uniform.
Yeah.
Why can't I walk into an Imperial base with that uniform?
As I knew you were gonna go there. I don't know why you can't just why like what's the benefit of having the Imperial uniform
Right, I
if you
thought
can't
that was
just
the
walk in?
point, is that I can wear it and not be caught inside their bases. It didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like the idea of this faction thing where you do a job for this people and then these people don't like you, or you can betray them, you can double cross people. I like the concept of it, but I think the execution of it, like I wish that you couldn't just make everybody happy. Like I wish by going with the Pikes, you now alienate the
Huts.
Crimson Dawn or the Huts or something. Yeah. But the fact that like, because there's even some story missions later on where you like I sided with the Pikes initially, and then I did a pretty important mission that went against the Pikes, and they were just like, "Hey, why are you doing this to us?" And it's like, "Sorry, it's just a paycheck." And then there was no ramifications. Like you would think that all of a sudden they should lock me out of everything, but you can make everybody happy if you play the game enough, which I didn't really like that much. I kind of wish you had to play it multiple times to figure out which ones you want to decide with.
Yeah, I also want to mention here the Pike thing because I know that was one of the big things in the game first started was like nobody wanted to go with the Pikes for some reason. So I'll ask both you guys like, why you think that is? Why do you think people hated dealing with the Pikes?
I think because of the Clone Wars.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
think
why
the
it made
call,
it
It's like the
ties?
way they were portrayed,
yeah,
and like the way that the other syndicates were portrayed, like the Huts. I mean, the Huts been around for how long? The 1980,
yeah.
1983. I mean, they bring up Jabba's name in 1980, right?
I think they bring him up like 77.
Oh yeah. He's in A New Hope. Yeah, they mentioned his name in 77. So obviously there's a long-standing history there. And then Crimson Dawn, I don't think I'm wrong. Crimson Dawn was first mentioned in Solo, right?
I think so.
They may have been mentioned elsewhere. I'm not, maybe I'm wrong, but I think their first mentioning was in Solo. So like it's not that long. So I guess people like want to know more about it in a way. So it's like kind of cool. Yeah, they were first appeared in Solo. So I think people wanted to like be like friendly with them because like, oh, Crimson Dawn, that's Maul, that's Dryden Voss, like that was, Kira. Like I think that's kind of cool. People want to be like involved in that. And then the Pikes, it's like, what are they? Screw them.
Nick D, what's your take on the Pike thing?
I don't know. I guess I must have missed all of that because like the first mission of the game, you basically meet with the leader of the Pikes. So like I was just like, well, I'm gonna go with these guys, you know? Like I'm just gonna like I don't know. They were helping me out, so I was like, I'll help them out. I'm not gonna betray this guy. He seems like a decent enough dude. As far as why people didn't like the Pikes, I don't really know. I didn't really see an issue with them.
Yeah. All right. So anything else on the gameplay experience you want to discuss before we quickly go through the plot?
There were a lot of cool, like, there were a lot of very cool. I don't want to say, yeah, Easter eggs is the right word, I guess, that have to do with Star Wars, which is obvious. I mean, you're obviously going to get that in a Star Wars game. But there were so many that it made it so cool. Like when I was hanging, you remember in Solo, Dryden Voss had those like brass knuckle looking things that was a weapon,
Yeah.
and I can hang that from my speeder. That was so cool. So very very happy with stuff like that and little things that I can do. The world. I gotta say this. Now I haven't really played many of these Ubisoft games. I played like actually I don't even know if I played any of them. But either way. I don't know. So my point is, I don't know how common this is, but the world was extremely lively.
Yes.
The cities felt great. Like there were cities in, I guess every planet. Yeah, every planet had a city. One planet you couldn't even leave the city, that little snow town, and the cities all felt very alive, which is awesome. Like there was never a corner that you went into where it's just like this is dead. There's nothing going on here. Like it was very lively, and that's really good.
That's what Ubisoft does. That's their thing is they make great worlds. It's just the people's complaints with them is the games themselves, you know. Um how did you guys feel about the splicing mechanic? Like it was like a rhythm game and
I hate
then
that so much.
there was that and then there was the computer hacking one which was basically just Wordle, you
Oh, I
know.
love the Wordle. I loved the Wordle.
Yeah, I'm in
What was the
agreement.
other one though?
The when
Oh,
you splice, it's like it was like a
I
rhythm
found it
thing.
fairly easy. I didn't have
I
a problem with it, but the Wordle I loved.
Wordle was great. I like that one a lot. Once I realized what it was, like, oh, I can do this. It's pretty easy. The splicing one, I just could not get it, and that drives me insane to do splicing so much.
Right? And you're just tapping R2 and it's
I
just like
close
the
my
thing
eyes,
keeps resetting.
close my eyes and listen.
Yeah,
Well, that's what you had to do. And then if you're using like the PS5 controller, you can feel the vibration when you're supposed to tap it. Like,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's a rhythm game.
yeah. I
It
think
doesn't
we've
really feel
all
like you're
played on
hacking.
PS5.
yes,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that's sort of I think the gameplay stuff here. So story wise, obviously. this is not a Jedi outcast this game in terms of plot. The plot is just a mechanism, I think, to move the actual action forward here. There's no
It's a
real
very
story.
generic plot that helps with the open world where it says you have to go get, once you reach the end of the first or technically second planet, you got to go get three people, but you can get anyone you want first. It's a classic, like, go wherever you want now. The world is open. You can go to this planet or this planet or this planet. And
Oh,
I
yeah,
guess if you want to, I would never do this, but I guess you could go to one planet, start, go somewhere else, start. I would never do that. It's so against me. If I go to a planet, I need to finish that planet before I leave, but I guess you can do that.
yeah. In terms of the storyline, basically, like I think of sound generically, Nick. D's like we where the main character is Kay Vess, who's a small time smuggler. She gets like a tip on a job on the planet Canto by which is we first see from episode 8, the Last Jedi, basically, and then basically she gets herself in over her head. She has a target put on just to get off world, just shenanigans the rebels. She's like basically trying to do all sorts of jobs to like get herself positioned for more success in the galaxy. Am I basically missing anything here?
No, it's yeah, that's the start of it. She's, trying to get off this planet. You can tell she's had a kind of a not a rough life, but like a not an easy life. She's been a smuggler, and then yeah, she gets it two in over her head. She robs from the wrong person. A death mark gets put on her head, and now um you need to that what's the Jalen something, I can't remember his last name. He's like, I got you already know how to break into this vault. You've done it once, so I'm gonna put a crew together and we're gonna do it, and then everything's gonna be fine. And that's the springboard of
Yeah.
going to the planets.
And most of the game is like go get the people from this crew, and you have to like do jobs to get their attention.
Yeah, yeah, that's the formula. You go to a planet, you kind of ask around, you do some jobs to get the information you need, then you find the person you need to recruit. But it's not as simple as I just want to recruit you. It's oh, this person is being held by this syndicate, so we need to do jobs for them, or oh, this person's locked up in this factory, we need to break them out. And it's that's kind of the uh wash and repeat kind of formula for each planet for each person that you're recruiting.
Yeah, Nick F. Anything on the story that really jumped out? You want to quickly discuss like some of the main characters we get to know?
Um, Kay as a character is fine, no issues. Um, she's very generic, I guess, because I don't know. I guess it's more the game is kind of one of those games where it puts you in the shoes of the character, I guess.
Yep.
So you are kind of choosing her path. So I guess she's supposed to be generic, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised that ND5 was
The
not
droid.
really your droid. I kind of expected him to be your droid, you know?
I mean, he's on the cover, but he's not.
Yeah, so like he's not really like I thought he'd just be the sidekick the whole game, and he kinda is, but not really. Um Nyx, on the other hand,
Love that
Nyx
little
is
guy.
better than BD1.
You think Nix is better than BD1?
I
Oh
do.
yeah,
I,
I
I
love
think
I love Nyx. Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
Nyx is a fantastic character.
Not just because he shares your names.
Not just because he shares our names.
Yeah, Nyx. That's what we're saying right now. The two Nyx on the podcast. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love Nyx, and I think Nyx is like the best little companion that we could have asked for.
Yeah, Nix is fun because like Nix, you like that like he's basically he'll go pickpocket for you, he'll be a distraction for you, then like the boys you can just stop and pet him if you're like in the mood. Like he
You
just
can
is like
eat. You can eat with him.
yep.
Yeah. He also gets very late game too. He learns a lot of cool abilities where like you kind of when you get into the flow in this game, like you're sneaking around, you're like, all right, Nyx, go sabotage that. And while Nyx is sabotaging that, you rig up this thing to explode. And like you end up working with him very so he becomes like a crucial part of the gameplay.
Yeah, so like of our three like little sidekicks here we've had over the last years, Grogu, BD1, or Nix. Like give me the power ranking.
Ooh.
I mean, Grogu has to be number one with the amount of the merchandise everywhere. It's insane. Like
Yeah.
at least it was. As I mentioned at the top of the podcast, people don't care anymore. But Grogu took over the world.
Yeah.
So he has to be one, but I think Nix is number two.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'd say Grogu at the end of season 2 of Mandalorian. It's not even a question.
Yeah.
I'd say we got Grogu's kind of we'll see how that translates now, but I would agree with Nick.
All right. So get shots to Knicks here. And another thing I want to mention is obviously like lot like in this timeline, potential for cameos. So who'd you guys run into in the storyline here? Is this the annual video game where Darth Vader shows up for some random reason?
Do
Yeah.
you not know? Do you not know the answer to this?
I know the answers. I'm
Okay.
just asking the audience.
Yeah,
uh,
Vader is there.
yep.
He's always there.
Um,
Uh,
Boba Fett's in the background. You can see him a little bit.
Yeah.
I liked that, by the way. The way that they put in Boba Fett in that game was like so you couldn't interact with him. It was like he was only through a vent that you can see him.
right, and I was thinking that too because you're crawling through the air vents in Jabba's palace, and I'm
Yep.
like I'm like I wonder if Boba Fett's here, and it's like oh look there he is, he's right there,
But that
and
was the
then
only way you could see him. Like it wasn't like when you're because you can free roam on the floor in Jabba's palace, like I guess his I don't know, Jabba's living room, whatever you want to call it. At
Yeah.
one point, you have free roam in there, and I was like, "What if Boba Fett's just standing there? Can I talk to him?" But they don't. They make that on purpose that you can't. We run into Lando and play Sabacc with Lando.
Bib Fortuna's there, obviously in Jabba's palace.
Yep, and we run into Kira. She's a big part of Crimson Dawn. Who
Uh,
else do we run into?
I'm sure there's like if you were to go online and like look up like a list, I'm sure there's like dozens. But as far as like concerned to the main story, Vader is like a big part of it. He has a couple of scenes. Um and but I think they did Vader all right because where like the Vader reveal in Jedi Survivor was like you're like, "Oh my God, like this is crazy." And you fight him and he beats you. In the Vader reveal in the second Jedi game, you're kind of like, they're doing this again. But the Vader part in this game felt cool because it's just like Kay has no idea who he is. So she's like on her radio and she's like, yeah, something's going down here. This doesn't I don't know what's going on, but this is bad. And Vader just like very quickly demonstrates how powerful he is with the Force and then gets the hell out of there. It's not like he doesn't overstay his welcome. It's a nice, just quick little that's right. Vader would be present here because the Empire's still pretty strong here right now, so that's why he's there.
We also get obviously Jabba the Hutt, and I don't think we mentioned
Right.
his name by name. Han Solo's in there in
In
Carbonite,
Carbonite.
Technically, yeah.
and I just looked this up. I didn't know this. Temin Wexley is one of the characters.
Yes.
Temin Wexley is one of those main pilots from the new trilogy.
Oh,
He's one of the main rebellion. He's the big rebellion guy. He's a little overweight, got the beard.
Yeah.
That pilot from the new trilogy, that's him. And he's in this game, and I did not realize that was him.
Yeah. Yes. I'll also throw out here. I think it's hilarious considering how big the galaxy is that Darth Vader somehow ends up in all of our business, like whenever we play video games.
He should.
Yeah.
Should. I like seeing him, and he's good. He's good at it.
Yeah. Because Nick D, I feel like with all the issues in the galaxy with the rebellion, it's just it's a situation we got smugglers involved and whatnot. Darth just happened to show up.
well, in this particular instance, it wasn't super random because you are breaking into like an Imperial thing, and I mean, I don't how detailed into the plot of the game are we getting? Like, how spoilery are we getting?
I mean, I think if you're listening to this, I don't think you care if you're being spoiled about the game.
Right. So your main antagonist throughout this game is this guy named Slero, right? He's the leader of Zarek Besh, the crime a different crime syndicate. You can't work with them, but they're like an up and coming one. And you know, you break into his vault initially, and that's how you get caught. And now you're trying to put a crew together to go back into his vault. Um, and story happens, missions happen. It turns out Slero's working for the ISB, and then it's when you're going there to this Imperial base to follow him to figure out what's going on, that's when Vader shows up because Vader's like upset with Slero because he's like Zarek Besh is a failure and you haven't caught any rebels, blah blah blah. So they actually weave Vader in to a point where you're like, yeah, that makes sense. He would be here. It doesn't feel like out of left field.
Yeah. I also note here in terms of another cameo here that like we can't get yet, but there is DLC coming with Hondo Onaka as well. So
Yes, I did purchase the DLC. I purchased all the packs, and I did the first. I think there's three total. One has been released so far. The one that was released was ND5 Ojaba Money, and you like do like a couple of myths, like a mission trail, which I don't remember how it went. Honestly, to be honest with you, when I did it, I didn't know it was the DLC. I just thought it was part of the story, and then I realized after I did, oh, I did the DLC.
yeah.
So I didn't even realize that I did it.
All right. So anything else you guys want to add? You want to start wrapping up?
Um, I suppose that's it. The story for me was not the highlight of the game. To me, the highlight of the game was the gameplay and being, I love these open world games like Red Dead Redemption, GTA, and Ghost of Tsushima. And think
But
about
not
it,
but
they
not
all
Horizon
have,
Zero Dawn.
if you think about it, these games all have their little thing that go with it. Like GTA is more, I guess, like modern. It's like real life. I mean, you don't behave like you do in real life, but it's cars, whatnot. Red Dead is the cowboy version of it. Ghost of Tsushima is the samurai version of it. This was just the Star Wars version of it. And that was
Yeah. Nick, do you anything else you want to add here? Because like I think in terms of the only thing I really wanted to say here is like in terms of like if you're a Star Wars video game fan, like do you recommend that you pick this up?
That's a good question. So I think if we're looking at it as just like a video game, right? Like remove the Star Wars aspect of it. I'm like, this game's very aggressively like a 6.5. It's
Wrestling Nick.
like, yeah, it's fine. It's above average. The Sky Guy's average. I know that's a 5 is the Sky Guy's average. So it's like a 6.5, maybe 7. But like if you're a Star Wars fan, I think honestly just going to Tatooine and just walking around Mos Eisley and just like being in that world, that alone is worth it if you're a Star Wars fan. Like I would say wait for this game to go on sale and then pick it up then because it's worth it. But as far as like what we got now, it's fine.
Nick, you concur?
I do.
All right, so you have a recommendation here. Like maybe wait for the sale price. Don't pay the full $70 here. If you're stealth, maybe this not might not be for you either if you're not a big stealth gamer, but like the open world is especially on Tatooine, I think a good draw to this game.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we got a good handle here on the Outlaws experience. And Nick, Fraietta, next week, Pete will be back with us here. We're going to do our 2024 year in review podcast a little early because Star Wars decided to give us new content to cover in December, which has never happened before for us.
Book of Boba Fett.
Was that?
Book of Boba Fett.
Well, that was December 29th. That doesn't really count.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, because like we were able to do year review like in December that year. Like this year, like we have basically 5 episodes of Skeleton Crew in here. It's also wild to think, Nick D'Alessio, that like you're gonna get a new episode of Skeleton Crew on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I I guess that's good. I don't know. I wish it was like I don't know. I guess we'll see. I have low expectations for Skeleton Crew, so I'm hoping that I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see what's going on here. I thank you as always for coming on here when they do the video game stuff. If you want to keep up with what you're doing on the streaming front, how can I do that?
Yeah, so go to twitch.tv/the recovery room. Right now I'm almost done doing a series on Bloodborne. And then after that, couple of new games that we're gonna let people vote on to see what we play. But yeah, that's what we got going on.
All right, Nick, one more time. If you want to follow us on social media, you're not going to do that.
At Sky Guys Podcast on Instagram, Twitter X, and TikTok.
Yeah, you can also follow me on social media, M Phillips 331. It's MPHILIPS 331. This is going to Just on the Suffering podcast. We're going to do a bye-week check-in on the Giants here, who right now are sitting at the number 2 pick in the draft as of recording time here. So, Nick Fraietta, new quarterback next year?
Next year, 100%. Will we get a new quarterback when we come out of the bye week? Let's see if let's see if that happens.
That's still an open question. We don't know yet.
Yeah. And next
Yeah.
year, 100%. Will we get one in the draft? I hope
Maybe.
so. I've given up on one thing. People try to pretend they know which college quarterbacks are going to be good in the NFL.
No one knows.
If he's ranked highly, take a shot.
Yeah.
Take a shot.
And hope you coach him right.
What you don't do is take the guy who's supposed to go in the second round, sixth overall, and then start him for 8 years.
Yeah, as they talked about, like I had Sean Rowe from the Starting Rock podcast on Just on the Suffering a few weeks ago, and he said it's incredible that Daniel Jones has survived three separate administrations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guy who was supposed to be second round talent has now been through 3 regimes.
Yep. So we'll be back next week. We'll do our 2024 year in review for us at the Sky Guys. Some of the Star Wars kind of covered pre-skeleton crew, but until then, may the Force be with you.